As you may have seen, Boris Johnson's mother, Charlotte, has died aged 79. A notice in the Times says she died suddenly and peacefully at St Mary's Hospital in West London. Boris once described his mother as the supreme authority in the family. So, do you ever get over losing your mum? Denise, what about you?
No, I don't think you ever do. It was 9 years ago now that we lost Mum, and there isn't a day goes by that I don't think about her. But I have such wonderful memories of our time together, and I think it very much depends under what circumstances your mum dies. I always say my mum lived with cancer for 20 years and was dying of cancer for a month, because when the end happened, if you remember, it was quite quick. But she was surrounded by people from Macmillan, she was surrounded by us. So that was the way she wanted to go, and she passed peacefully. So I'm at peace with how she went. The period of lucidity she had when Matty and Louis and the kids came there, it was almost as if she knew what was happening. You obviously felt you had time to say what you wanted to say. I can talk about my mum dying today without crying, but there'll be some times that I'm just shopping and I'll get a smell of perfume, or there'll be a song comes out in, or sometimes nothing, and I just get overwhelmed, and then I can be in racking sobs about it. But your life is never quite the same, and there's been many times over the last 2 years that it never goes, that feeling of wanting to pick up your phone. And I'm 63 and I still want my mum sometimes. I mean, a lot of people watching this will feel exactly the same way as you, but also a lot of people won't have had that relationship with their mum. And Janet, that's where I really admire you, because actually it's quite a taboo to say that you didn't get on with your mum.
I didn't get on with my mum, but to deal with it, I couldn't really articulate that. I mean, we argued all the time. We spoke on the phone once a week, and it always ended with one of us slamming the phone down, and I used to dread Sunday evenings. They would the talk to mum hour, and then she'd ring up my sister and then the same thing would happen. And then in 2004 I wrote a book called Baggage, which was about my relationship with my mum and why I admired her, and the more I found out about her, the more I respected her. I mean, I loved her because she was my mum, but my goodness, it was an awfully difficult relationship. And when I wrote that book about you don't have to be best friends with your mum, it's not, a requirement, literally hundreds and hundreds of men and women and a few men wrote to me and said, thank goodness someone has busted that taboo that, your relationship with your parents is difficult, but with your mother in particular. And if you, like me, you work really hard and you are proud of your career, there was that element of competition, and then I realised, because she had left school at 14, a resentment that I had opportunities that had been denied to her. So, if I'm honest with you, I think about my mum, but I think just as much about my sister dying, which was also from cancer, but in a very unfortunate way and very uncomfortable for me and for my sister's husband, ghastly experience in every way. And I think about my sister, who I also had a difficult relationship with, but I miss her probably more than my mum, because, my sister was a bit of a laugh. And at her funeral, all these people came out from the supermarket where she worked, and I saw another aspect of my sister that I'd never seen while she was alive.
Yeah. I think it's really important to sort of hear all the different perspectives on that, because it is such an important relationship in so many people's lives. What about you, Frankie? Because I know that your parents are still around, but what about your grandparents?
You know what? I grew up really close to my mum's mum and dad, and they looked after us after school, and a lot of my childhood memories are with my nan and granddad, and my nan was the first person that I'd ever lost, and I found it really difficult, but I don't feel like at the time, I was really busy in the Saturdays, I was quite young, I had a lot going on. I don't feel like I properly grieved the loss of her until probably only really like last year started properly realising it, and I miss her all the time. And I think now that my granddad's passed as well, I had that realisation for my mum that it must be so strange for her to not have either of her parents around. She was really close to them. And it made me kind of think, God, one day that's probably going to be me. And they're like, you know, if you do have a good relationship, they're those people that are always there and you've grown up with them forever, you don't know life without them. And then for them to suddenly not be there must make you feel really lonely and vulnerable, I imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's...
Your mum's still hanging on in there?
My mother is still going strong. And we'll be watching. Hello, Mum. I won't say your age, because I know that I won't live very long if I do.